Great. Hi, everyone. So welcome to this webinar, The Future of IP. We have with us team members from Loci and from LEXIT. So maybe before we start, it would be nice to introduce everyone. Can we maybe start with the Loci team?
Sure. Go ahead, Laura.
Sure. All right. Good morning. So I'm here with our wonderful CEO, John Wise, CEO of Loci, myself, Lauren Arevalo, Director of Communications for Loci.
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. And on the LEXIT side, we have the CEO, Amir Kaltak. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Amir. I'm here with my CMO, Nikita Samilan, and we're really excited to enlighten all of you what this amazing partnership with Loci and LEXIT is all about.
All right, thank you so much, Amir and Nikita. So maybe it would be good to start, to explain how you guys are partners. Maybe you'd like to explain how you've met.
Yeah, John.
Go ahead, Amir.
All right. Okay, it was last year.
Steak from the best food place in New York.
I lived this. Yeah, it was last November. Consensus Invest, and I met John, and we immediately realized that we got so much in common that both projects could benefit so strongly from another. And he suggested, like, hey guys, I know this place, the Lure, right? The Lure was it the name of the place? Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's supposedly the best fish place in all of Manhattan, right? And so he dragged us over there. We talk, and then we come to order the food. And so in that best fish place, I'm ordering a steak, and he was laughing his butt off. So it's hilarious. Yeah, it's like, dude, how can you do this?
Does
but the steak was great.
Does Estonia have a large body of water around it? Like an ocean?
We do. We're directly at the Baltic Sea. Directly, you can just ship over to St. Petersburg and to Helsinki, to Stockholm. We're directly at the water. We do have a lot of fish here too. Yeah.
So you're fairly used to it. But yeah, so I believe we were at Galaxy actually for Galaxy's event.
This is how we met first time. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. During that consensus week. That was last year, right?
Yes.
It feels like
it was last year, November.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while.
2 years. Yeah, but in crypto, it is like a lifetime moment, almost. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. Time goes fast in crypto. And so, okay, you guys met. And what brought you to work in IP? How did you have this idea?
Well, maybe John hit it up.
Yeah, so actually, Will Pengman was one of the guys that, and Tim.
Tim Frost and Phil Pangman,
yeah, they were the ones that kind of brought it up. They're like, oh man, you guys have to meet. They're both kind of working in IP, and so we had a nice little 6 or 7 block walk over from Galaxy and went into a pretty deep conversation on the way over. A little bit of a deep dive. Because Will had been
I remember
overdue for one as well.
Yeah, that's true. No, Will is the guy who connected us. Actually, he saw the dots and he connected them. He's like, well, wait a second, you guys, you should really talk. And I'm really grateful he did. So now we're here and partnering up and shaping the future of IP, how we obtain it and how to monetize it, how to evaluate it, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So let's kick it off from there, Emily.
Okay, great. And so maybe that links us to what are you actually doing with LEXIT, and maybe afterwards John could explain what you are doing with Loci for those who aren't familiar.
Yeah, of course. So LEXIT, we call it a mergers and acquisitions marketplace built on DLT. So what you can do is you can sell entire companies or parts of the company. You can liquidize assets of these companies, and in assets included are intellectual property rights. So we figured that in order to give our clients, the buyers, the best possible value on LEXIT, we need to gather as much as possible information on the IP being sold, being liquidized, right? And this is where Loci comes into play, because what they are great about is to actually figure out what is this particular IP doing? What is it good for? What is it built upon, right? So there's a wealth of information which we can use to improve our business pretty dramatically, actually. So this is why I was so excited about John explaining what they do. And I believe that he's going to speak for himself, but I believe that his token model and everything they're building around with the Loci coin is going to be very, very powerful for the future for creators, of IP.
Yeah. So in mergers and acquisitions, in purchasing any assets at all, the most important part is the valuation, right? And it's very subjective. It's very speculative. This was a problem that we faced head on. My dad and I spent years and years and years trying to figure out valuation metrics. And just about everybody in the IP space has spent years trying to figure out valuation metrics for intellectual property. But they have typically a very high margin of error. What we ended up realizing was that valuing IP based on a marketplace or market value, as you can value any company, is next to impossible to do, right? Even some of the best in the world, I've heard have upwards of 80% margin of error. Some have speculated as high as 90, but it's unlikely in real repeatable fashion. When you do that, right? You know what? Let me go into it. This is an AMA. This is a little bit more technical. Let's go into it. So what people need to realize is that when you're valuing what an invention is, right? You value it currently based on the market value, what that technology is going to turn into, what products it's going to turn into. And then from there, what the market opportunity is, how much the thing is going to sell for, what the supply chain is, how many potential customers, market share, existing market disruption, all of these things. It's thousands and thousands of variables that go into this. You've got commodity prices, you've got materials prices, you've got other competition, future proofing. It's a lot. For anybody to tell you that they're very good at valuing IP, they're full of it. They can be very good relative, but that's exactly what gets me to my point. The way that Loci addressed it with cryptocurrency is that we had to get a purely relative valuation. We valued IP and inventions solely based on the novelty. If there were going to be, say, 5,000 inventions, permutations of one invention, say, 5,000 versions of the smartphone, we could determine that early and make a relative valuation where the first invention is worth 5,000 coin, the last one is worth 1 coin. We then had to build this ecosystem, this economic model around it that sort of intrinsically increases the value of that IP or of that coin. Not for profit, but for having and maintaining an inventor, a for inventor by inventor sort of system here. That is, I think, one of our biggest elements.
What I really like about your system, your processing and everything, the balance of it, right, is that you are empowering the creators.
Yeah.
See, people always think of brands, of companies and products, but who are the people who actually put their brain to work, right? The creators, the individuals, the geniuses, right? Often enough, it's just 1 or 2 people in an entire team who basically hold the entire development of something, right? You have those geniuses. Exactly. And those guys, often enough, right, they do not get the appreciation or, even monetize enough on it because they're part of something and they just take over the invention. So what I like about it is that you are empowering the creators. And I really appreciate that because we have a strong sense for community. We're building LEXIT for the startups. We call ourselves a startup for startups, right? And I think this is also from this point of view, right? That the mindset, of you and me and our teams. I like that.
Yeah. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that inventors must be individuals. Assignees, the owners of the patents, can be inventors or anybody, right? They can be individuals or businesses,
right.
But inventors must always be an individual, even within a huge company. You look at patents filed, through IBM or by IBM. There's always an individual that's listed there, and that's a big part, because right now equities have IP valuation rolled into it, right? Equity value, the very reason for M&A.
Yeah.
All of the IP value just goes towards an asset. Well, there are a lot of other assets, but Loci was looking to bifurcate this system, right? So that we could have IP as a completely separate exchangeable asset class. LEXIT can help both bifurcate, but also streamline both of these systems, both of these markets at the exact same time, which I think can dramatically increase this rate of acceleration for all purchases, asset purchases, and economics going forward. I think it's going to be a big deal.
All right,
Thank you, man. I think the same about you guys. So now we exchange your honeypots. Let's get into it.
All right, so I think so those honeypots look pretty good. So I believe that you're using blockchain technology for this. Why do you want to use this, and how secure is it?
Go ahead, Amir.
Well, for us, M&A transactions are complicated, first of all, and they are costly. They are very intransparent. All these are good reasons for us to use DLT. So in hands-on, we have two sides of how we use our token and how we apply a blockchain to the entire system. The token itself is being used as a utility token to pay listing fees, to get rewarded as an assessor, open up features and stuff like that. You use it also to pay our small commission we take on deals, which is an average of 3%, compared to the 15 to 20% success fees and everything in the real M&A old world. This is like pennies on a dollar, right? So this is one part of it. The second part of it is how do we apply DLT to it? Look, if you now have two parties and there's a lot of money on the table and a lot of intellectual property or assets or equity on the table, how do you initiate over the internet first level of trust, or how can you do it? Well, with a trustless system like a ledger, you can accomplish that, because every step of every deal, which we use push-pull systems and timelines and deadlines to keep them pushing forward to the end of the deal, is being protocoled. So every party involved into a deal knows exactly what's happening right now, who did it and when they did it, what was signed by who and whatnot. There is no doubt about it. Is the money in the escrow and yada, yada. So all those things are being immutable on the ledger, which is creating an initial level of trust in between strangers and a lot of value in between them. So we believe we have also security reasons for that, because if our systems, whatever, would be compromised at some point, we can reinitiate every deal to the moment it happened in split seconds. So we have a very interesting infrastructure on the security side, how we operate with the data. So that's why we use DLT. Also, transactions like with the token, it's basically instant, right? And it's like if you want to send money from Argentina to Mongolia, it goes over probably 30 banknotes, and you still don't know if the bank is telling you it's a real bank. You need a proof of a notary that those $1 million in tokens have arrived. So there's a lot of reasons to use a blockchain tech for what we do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing us, on your infrastructure and how things work behind the scene. Now, I'd like to ask a question to John. So I believe that with Loci, you have created an entirely new exchange system for IP, right? How did you do that?
Creating, right? We had to start with valuation. We had to start with the search process. The exchange process is going to come here shortly. There's a lot to get built up. There's a completely new model and methodology around it. This is a problem that I think the whole world has been trying to do since the inventions. So Sorry, repeat the question here one more time. So creating an entirely new exchange, how we're creating that exchange?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, it comes around the valuation, right? And the valuation is going to be a bit more esoteric than we should go into right now. But the second part comes around this new economic model that we had created. One thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand about the way that Loki's ecosystem works is that we don't decentralize the exchange portion, right? We decentralize the valuation. So we take the risk out of it, but we can't just decentralize everything. The biggest reason for that is that there are going to be iterations of inventions, even potentially weapons of mass destruction, that could get staked on the blockchain. If we decentralize the entire thing, that would immutably store technology around very destructive technologies globally on the blockchain for everybody to see forever. Now, I'm as much of an idealist as everybody else, regardless of what our feelings are about that. The one thing that we could certainly be sure of is that we will go away very quickly, whether it be from the government or from bad guys, if we actually put that information out there. That's just the hard truth. The better way to do it anyway was to decentralize the valuation. So let me go into a little bit about how the economics themselves work. So we created this thing called the Rainmaker. The Rainmaker was a completely new economic model, whereas when an invention comes into the system, we can determine the number of permutations. We can determine the novelty, how many of these iterations, how many things will be. Not what those technologies will be. That stuff we make sure to hide behind a black box. But how many versions there will be. Now, those versions are determined based on new inventions that are coming out, and then a computational combination of the inventions that currently exist. So it's constantly evolving. Because of its constant evolution, Loki Nexus will then be buying these inventions, whatever invention somebody wants to sell. Loki Nexus will then be buying these inventions for the amount of coin based on that's novelty. So I used the example earlier. If there are 5,000 versions of the iPhone, the first iPhone is worth 5,000 coin. The last one is worth 1 coin, right? The 3,000th version is worth 3,000 coin. That makes it sound like it's a very low amount of money. And in some respects it is, because at our stage, nobody's filed a patent, nobody's built an iPhone, nobody's created demos. This is literally the search process. In our system, the very nature of as soon as they have come up with the idea, as soon as they have thought to research to see if it already exists, that is when we start to execute on the thing. That's when we get a valuation. So is very, very, very low risk for an inventor. It limits some of the upside, but it also gives as much volume and velocity opportunity for that inventor. The reason that we do this based on permutations and based on novelty is that we feel that the first inventor of something, or even the earlier inventors, are going to have the most opportunity, the most advantage, and the most intellectual head start to be able to come up with future iterations of this. I mean, that just makes logical sense, right? So going back, Loki Nexus would buy an invention, an idea itself, the moment that it's been researched the first time. Again, no patents need to be filed or anything along those lines. It would buy 4 coin. It would hold it into this entity, and then it would package computationally. It would package inventions together. When it packages these inventions together, you have something called an investment pool. think of buying not one company, but every company in one space, right? Buying Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and Vudu all at the same time to be able to get into the internet media. So at that stage, this package of inventions, these investment pools, are worth substantially more, greater than the sum of its parts element. We then offer those up, or Nexus would then offer those up for sale to the highest bidder. Enterprises can then bid. The catch is that they must buy this investment pool in coin, okay, in Loci coin. And we can go into more of the details of why that needs to happen. But in Loci coin, they must buy these investment pools. These investment pools sell for quite a lot. But one thing really to consider here is that an enterprise that's spending a lot of coin needs to buy that from the free market, right? Or even OTC, but they need to buy that coin, which drives up the price, drives up the value of this coin, which actually ends up reimbursing the inventors for having quality ideas. It's kind of a way to equalize perceived market value, because that's the companies that are going to be selling these products are the only ones actually determining the value of the coin in the first place.
I think as we get deeper into the platforms and how you do, maybe we have questions from the LEXIT and Loci side. We have the directors of communications and marketing here. Maybe you'd like to ask some questions?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily. John, you have already mentioned this, but maybe you could elaborate. How difficult is it actually to evaluate patents and IP?
Next to impossible. In fact, I would argue that it is, you would need a crystal ball to actually value it based on market value, right? You've got the big four auditing firms are some of the biggest ones that do patent evaluation. So you've got Ernst & Young, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then KPMG. These guys all have an extremely high margin of error for valuation on IP, because everybody wants to see how much this technology is going to be worth, right? What's the impact of this drug on the marketplace, right? How much is this antidepressant going to be worth around the world? How much is it going to be worth to get people off of nicotine or cigarettes? It's nearly impossible to tell, right? When a good example is like the hand spinner. I don't know if they're as popular in Europe as they were here, right? This was 20 years after the patent had been filed, or I think it was like 24 years after the patent had been filed. The patent had lifed out. It had been invented. There's nothing novel about it. There was nothing new at all. And it just took off and blew up.
Was invented in the 60s. The CD player was invented in the 60s and got popular in the 80s. The microwave in the 50s, popular in the 90s. No, it's crazy.
Exactly. But so the point there is that it's nearly impossible to see when something is going to get real market traction. And a lot of it comes down to advertising, marketing, and execution from the business. And sometimes just somebody sees the thing and has some really good influence. Somebody sees a model wearing something and thinks it's kind of cool, or somebody does something wrong and all of a sudden it looks interesting. Market traction is often taken out of context, and that's part of the beauty of it. So it's incalculable.
It's very subjective.
Yeah.
True.
For us, and the other big side there is that a question I get all the time, and Amir, you probably do too. Well, how do you determine, or what happens with bad ideas, right? I love this concept that people bring up of a bad idea. Well, penicillin was a mistake, right? And had no understood value at all, right?
True.
Nuclear power, another thing. Right? Light bulbs, carbon filaments, AC electricity, all of these things weren't known to be these massive innovations until somebody else saw it, and said, oh, Jesus, I can use that. That's the missing link. So who are we?
Sure.
Who are we trying to build the new decentralized idealist world here? Who are we to determine what is and is not good or bad? The point is we can't. Nobody can. What we can.
Value is subjective. To one, something is very valuable. To somebody else is completely useless, right? It depends if you really need it. If it fits as like a piece of a puzzle into what you are building, then it has high value to you, right?
Yep. And that's why we focus so heavily on the context, right? What something fundamentally does, not what it's called, not where it's used, not what it's being applied to, not what market it's in, what the thing fundamentally does. The only way you can value something based on context is novelty. And we are creating this contextual derivation and predictive algorithm, predictive algorithm to be able to combine context together so that we can actually understand all of its possible applications. I think that's the only way that we could ever, even in a theoretical perspective, could ever value something correctly.
All right, well, thank you very much. Are there other questions from Nikita and Lauren?
Yeah, thank you. I've got a question. I think we've answered some of these questions indirectly, so I'm going to forward on to one of ours here. So this is for Amir. How difficult is it to find buyers while selling digital assets? I think you touched on this just now, but if you can speak to that point a little bit more.
Yeah. I'd like to. It's over 2 years ago now that I was running a startup called NVMe. It was a social media app. We picked thousands of downloads a day. It was really good, but we were lacking funding. So we figured, hey, there was a company before where we had a geolocation engine, which was pretty neat, consumed way less power on the GPS tracking than normally. And we figured, why don't we sell that, monetize on this IP, and so fund this current project. So, and I was just figuring out how to sell it. And I was realizing there's no such place. Everything is depending on my personal contacts, on my network, my business network, who I can coach to offer this IP and whatnot. It was like, there was nothing, right? So I realized, wait a second, this is a huge opportunity, not just for IP. Why is there no marketplace, a platform where I can accomplish an entire M&A deal from a small startup, highly adaptive, to a large enterprise? And why is there no place for that, right? Why is it not on a bidding system? So value is, as we just realized, very subjective. And so it popped up, and in the second minute, honest to God, even the name came into my mind. It was L for liquidize, exit for exit your company, so LEXIT, right? And it's really difficult. The average runtime of a startup in the tech world, where I'm very familiar with, is 1.5 years. The average funding received, private equity, venture capital, seed funding, yada, yada, is 1.7 million US. So in that time, when they 95+% of the companies actually fail, which is the reality in the statistics, they create a lot of value. They create a lot of IP, branding, all sorts of great thoughts, kind of galvanized down to IP. And we thought this is a huge opportunity, not just to sell the entire company, but also to gut out companies, to sell the good parts of it, to make a marketplace which is accessible, which is very, very low barriers. LEXIT, there's one word which I find describes us the best, which is access. It gives you access, because if you now go as a nobody, as a small entrepreneur, as a youngster with a great IP, you go to consultancy and tell them, hey guys, I got this amazing tech. And they will tell you, wow, we love it, it's great. And then they're going to ask you for serious down payment for the services, but you don't have that money. You just crashed your startup, right? So how are you going to sell that? Who's going to help you? And this is why we created LEXIT, to lower the barriers to enter into the M&A space, into selling and liquidizing and buying assets, to help you guys, to empower you guys around us, right? And to bring the leverage to not the small guy, but the guy who's definitely not in the leverage, right? And to put the buyers, the big Fortune 500 corporations, the Googles of this world, who are constantly buying companies. So Google is acquiring every 2 days in average a company in a value in between 10 and 20 million. This is, and to give those guys, put those guys into a competitive situation, right? So through the bidding process, our sellers get the most value out of it. And this is why this partnership makes so much sense. Look, John and his amazing team, they figured out with a very complex, and his father, as I learned, figured out how to put sense into an invention, to go down there into the first, so to say, genetic sequence of it, right? And on those, with the model to determine what is it and what can be used for, what is it similar to, right? So this information is crucial to accomplish a big part of our business, okay? And that's why we work together now.
Okay, so guys, I was looking at the YouTube chat, and there are lots of questions actually about your partnership. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about that and tell us the vision and the mission of Loci and LEXIT coming together.
Yeah, Amir, you want to start?
No, you hit it off. Honestly, I was distracted for a moment. She said in the chat, and I checked the chat. I was like, "What's going on in the chat? What?" So take a turn.
That was his password that he just entered, everybody, just so you know.
Don't scroll back.
Yeah, I think, I was just thinking about something, listening to what you were saying, that your assessors, it would be really, really neat to be able to have assessors go through the assets that are already in a company that is going to be liquidated, right? The assessors go through and say what the products are, and then start to highlight IP within the Loci ecosystem as well, and show that there's a correlation between inventions and products that are going through LEXIT, and say that these things can get augmented, and you can either place a bid on one, or you could place a bid on all of it and be able to get this. There's a lot to this partnership, and there's a lot of getting in the weeds as well. I'm trying to get more technical here, but also not just destroy everybody's brains first thing in the morning for us. So right out of the gate, there's a lot of cross promotion. We both have a coin ecosystem and very complementary systems in general. There's also an interface element. We have this search interface that I think would be very advantageous for M&A stuff. We have no immediate plans on our end to do any other assets, so I don't have any problem helping with the interface here and co-branding or white labeling, whatever for LEXIT that may be able to help.
I'm really excited to look into that.
Yeah, you should. The Venn diagram's nice. It's really easy. It's really easy.
John, I believe we can save ourselves a lot of time during what we do, right? I'm not a guy who likes to cut corners, right? But if it makes a lot of sense and you partner up with somebody and you can cut a corner here to save costs and save development time, this makes a lot of sense. This is what a good partnership is all about, right? You empower yourself and thrive together.
Yeah, good partnerships also, a lot of it's also about our networks. We've got very different networks, but they're parallel. I think you're a partner with Polymath, right?
Polymath is our biggest one, actually, is Startup Bootcamp, the largest accelerator in the world, with thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of startups who provide deals directly on the platform. So we can also help you guys to tap into that sphere, because there's a lot of creators, the tech startups, all of them, and big projects. Was a cradle of amazing companies, right? These accelerators. So we can really sort of fertilize our communities, vice versa. The possibilities are not just technology and not just retrieving, information which we, need, and vice versa on your side to power the Loci coin too. This is just the beginning. I see way more to it.
Yeah. So where I was going is, you've got companies like Polymath in yours. Right? We've got Salt as a partner here, and companies like UpChannel, Inspire, and several new ones that are coming out as well. By the way, for those that have never heard the name Spire or UpChannel, They're a smaller company, but it's really neat what they're doing. They've got these very inexpensive Android-based phones that we can preload applications on. They've got the mesh network capabilities. They've got multiple SIM cards. And what they're planning on doing is literally airdropping these things, putting them on pallets with parachutes and dropping them into India, China, wherever. But they have these blockchain applications that are already preloaded on it. I would love to be able to see LEXIT on these phones as well, because these companies,
that's fantastic.
These small ideas and technologies that are coming out of anywhere, even third world countries, they have value. They have great ideas. They have great technology, and they still do a lot of effort. For these guys to be able to play in the big game here, in the big league, I think could be really amazing.
John, you just pointed out something very interesting. It's the third world or the less developed countries, right? I believe that a human brain, no matter from what cultural or what genetic background it comes, is the same as capable on average. So exactly. I believe there are geniuses all over the world, but they will never get a chance to, and if they get a chance, they get kind of assimilated by us Westerners into our economies, into our tech environments. And that's it. We're brain draining the entire world right now. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is really, we do benefit. This is why we can build all these crap things for cheap, right? Because we brain drain everybody. And this has to stop. We should turn the table a bit, at least a little bit, to empower these people, to connect them to the value chains of our economies, to let the creators from Malawi and from Bangladesh and from Indonesia, whatever, bring them together into this ecospace, make it easier for them to participate as creators and get a fair return of value for their invention.
Well, something that a lot of people don't consider, though, is it's actually not just the geniuses. It's right. First of all, it's really anybody. Anybody has the capability of having an idea, but there's a Darwinian perspective to this as well. There's a much simpler perspective here, is that going through permutations, going through accidents and mistakes, that is how we as humans and every animal and every plant has evolved. Mistakes. That is the only tool.
You just totally true. 20 minutes ago, you said penicillin. No, nobody knows Fleming. Fleming was a scientist in the 20s when he was accidentally fertilizing, a probe and a sample with bacteria, and realized, holy crap, this stuff is preventing this bacteria to spread out. When the other Petri scale was like full of bacteria, the other one just had a little bit. It was was condemned, and he realized it was just a mistake. The dude just had a mishap, and he created the first antibiotic in the world.
Yep.
It's funny.
Yeah. Look, think about it, right? The universe has been around for billions of years. Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it, right? The cosmos has had only one tool at its disposal: mistakes. That's it, right? Variation.
Totally true.
And we've got to be able to recognize these things. Why we cut out 90% of the population and 90% of these iterations over sequencing and over a process around something like patents? That's idiotic. That's not just bad business. It's just dumb.
It's inefficient, man.
It's stifling literally natural process. Natural selection.
Yeah, it is.
I'm getting all like hot and bothered about it.
So maybe
I can see that, man.
I'm passionate, man.
To go back to the partnership, then maybe. So basically, from what I understand, so a lot of people seem to be saying that Loci and LEXIT might be competitors. So from what you were saying, you're actually not competitors at all, right?
No.
Okay.
Zero. This one here goes out to the board of directors at Loki's. Don't be afraid of we come in peace.
Oh, we're never afraid of you. Don't worry. Just because you have bigger muscles.
Okay, so basically your partner, you'll be complementary but not competitors, right? That's good to know. So maybe I think Nikita hasn't been talking very much. Do you have other questions, Nikita, maybe?
Yeah, we already discussed a bit giving access to market for a small guy, but we've talked mostly about businesses. What about universities, professors, students? Do you think they would be able to benefit from the platforms? This is both to John and Amir.
On my end, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of technology out there. There are a lot of ideas that go absolutely nowhere. I think I had seen somewhere that it was like a 3% success rate for patents around the world to actually get granted, and then a 3% to go to product, and then another 1% or something to actually make a return on investment.
It's a tiny conversion. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But to your question, Nikita, look, universities are strongholds of creativity and of inventions, right? And many great companies we know of started as university projects. I mean, hell, even Facebook started over there, right, in Harvard. So, which is not directly kind of a project on the university, but it started there, nevertheless. And there's a huge silo of inventions in all those universities around the world. I mean, the Harvard University is a university which is turning over billions, in funding of the university and in spending for high-tech equipment to give the students the best opportunity to do research at the MIT and where not. And they create a lot of stuff, and we intend definitely to tap into that to help them to monetize and use the funds to fund, of course, the operations of the university itself, right? So I think that education is entirely underfunded throughout the whole world. Just the small percentage of the really rich kids gets to study where they want to study, right? They're privileged. As all of us here in this room, I assume, are privileged people. And we do need to change that. And I believe that we empower the single creator, the single individual, wherever he may roam in this world, to participate is going to do a great deal to accomplish that, I believe.
Yeah, there's a compounding level as well. It's not just about funding, I think, but it's also about getting rid of the waste, getting rid of the duplicative effort, right? There, when you think about companies like pharmaceuticals, right? People develop the same technology or the same pharmaceuticals and the same medical devices in multiple companies in multiple different countries trying to go to the market at the same time. When you really dig into patents and IP and inventions, you realize that there's this weird thing that happens. You start to see inventions coming out with no communication at the same time in completely different parts of the world. And you kind of realize that there's this, there's some, kindling that just ignited. There's some gasoline that was poured on whether it be people watching YouTube and coming up with other ideas of, oh, this is really cool what Amir and John and Loci and Lexit are doing and talking about. They get these prompts. People get prompts all over the place. And there's this aha moment that occurs. So really promoting this compounding effect is big.
Right.
In fact,
there is this theory that if you have an idea, sorry, you first.
I was just saying, in fact, it leads currently to trillions of dollars of waste a year, and theoretically, it could be hundreds of trillions of dollars in impact if we pull all this off.
That's a very good point. So let's just together go and recycle technology, because this is a very resource hungry thing to build, all right? Way more than fabricating aluminum can for Coca-Cola. So technology is really expensive to
Which, by the way, was an invention.
A lot of that. Yeah, exactly. Everything we have in our hands at our disposal, from the single fork or the wheel, is a invention, right? It's your mind is wavering around and you come up with this incredible idea, and then you put it into a product and people using it for millions of years maybe to come. This is amazing, right? I think inventions are directly in correlation with evolution itself. The human mind, right, was a more primitive one not long ago. 500,000 years ago, we were pretty much apes, right? And like 200,000 years ago, we started to develop this, this neocortex, which is giving us this advantage against everybody. And now we're killing everything, right? Which is not good. Got to change that one. But the brain is into the evolution. But the same as the brain is evolving into something more complex and more capable to do things, we create these ideas, which then are the next level of evolution, right? This is so fascinating, right? Isn't it? Oh, no, I'm going way too far.
No, actually, I'm going to go a little bit farther with it.
Let's go.
You're right. You brought up something. You said we're killing each other, and that needs to stop. There's an irony in that statement specifically, that when you look back at the trends of innovation, every time there's a big war, innovation skyrockets. And
it's crazy.
What people don't realize is that isn't because innovations or inventions are now coming out. It's that innovations are under a microscope, and there are more people looking for technology that absolutely must happen right away. It isn't about this technology just coming out. The nuclear bomb is a good example of this. Einstein was already working on nuclear energy and powering systems. The reason it got traction was war, because it was being looked at so closely, because governments and militaries needed to find answers. So they were looking everywhere. They lowered every single bit of red tape, and they just said, we just want things as quickly and most efficiently as possible. That's what LEXIT and Loci are looking to get rid of. Is we shouldn't have
Fantastic.
to
I couldn't have said it better.
We shouldn't have to have a microscope to find good ideas or any ideas.
Yeah.
We should have those ideas on tap and ready to go.
We should do everything to prevent situations like Robert Oppenheimer, the destroyer of the worlds, after he's seen what happened to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We should really never put anyone in this situation that you have to make this decision as a scientist. You know what I mean? Like, let's avoid that. You can create something good out of it. I get why Truman wanted to stop the war, right? But he could have also just nuked some empty island in front of Japan. But, there were other reasons. He just wanted to stop it. I know this was a bit far of what we are talking about, but I believe that we have a responsibility as creators and scientists.
But it's in context, and it is relevant.
It is, yeah.
What you also just highlighted right there with Oppenheimer is the premise of what a good idea was. That idea for nuclear energy had huge impacts to begin with. But in that case, Oppenheimer said, that's a really great idea that I can use for a purpose that it's not intended for.
Actually, that
about that for a second.
Yeah, actually, that was a question that came up in the chat on YouTube. So you were talking before about destructive technology, destructive ideas. And so people in the chat were asking, how do you make the difference between a destructive idea and a positive constructive idea?
But I can say what we do. We have pretty strict guidelines for LEXIT. We work and live by a code. We, part of our fundraising, we rejected a lot of money, many millions from people which we believe are not the right people to work with, right? Because we didn't believe in what they believe. And it's just a bit tougher, but we did that because we have principles. And same to military grade technology. Who wants to trade with that, it's fine, but LEXIT is going to stay away from any military grade technology whatsoever. Anything that can be used to kill humans or destroy nature in big scale, we will stay away from.
Yep. Yeah, and Loki is doing the same thing. We're based in Washington, D.C. We're right in the thick and seeing it all around. We're very aware of the amount of technology and what stuff is out there. So to go back to your question or the YouTuber's question, good idea or bad idea or dangerous idea, there is no way for anybody to notice or to know this, right? Oppenheimer is a perfect example of it. That technology, nuclear technology, was not intended for war. It was not intended for destruction. What we're doing, and this is why we focus so heavily on context, what we're doing is doing and recognizing the permutations. We're not releasing how something is accomplished. We're releasing what something can do, what its impacts are, and its relevant sort of parallel inventions and technologies. The way to accomplish these things, I don't feel should always be disclosed. That's, it'll be an even further rabbit hole for us to go down. I'm happy to go into it if it's pertinent, but
maybe
we keep that for the next time we go to a fish restaurant.
Everybody's like, no, don't go down the rabbit hole, John.
Yeah, maybe because we only have 10 minutes left. So I think
what? That was fast.
Yeah, I know, right? That goes fast. So maybe, I don't know, Nikita and Lauren, do you have other questions maybe?
Yeah, I think, with time being of essence here, I think it's important for us to kind of discuss, so what's next for Loci and LEXIT? What's the timeline looking like for this partnership? I know our community is eager to hear a little bit about that from John and Amir.
I'll let Amir go. You can start.
Sure. So we our timeline is just right now. We're wrapping up until end of September. Our crowd's here right now. We're still fundraising, but we're building it since almost 2 years now. We're building LEXIT, right? Before even the thought of an ICO, we had seed funding, and before that, we bootstrapped with our private funds as co-founders. So we're pretty far into it, and we will launch from the timeline now. November is the designated time to launch the platform in a version 1, which is going to be pretty comprehensive already. And just before launch, in the beta phase, we will work closely together with Loci and our partners to make this promise or this idea on how to do it a reality. So the idea to you communities is that we starting very soon to figure out how to do it, what is the most efficient way to do it, what makes sense on both ends to drive our businesses, to drive our technology stacks as fast as possible. And I hope that we have in Q1 next year already a fully working system in between our companies to work together.
Yeah, and on Loki's side, we already have a lot of technology. We already have a lot of stuff built. We've been building it. We've had our full product live since middle of last year. And so however we can augment the process and expedite development for LEXIT, we're happy to jump in, especially from the searching interface side. The searching is going to be a pretty big thing for LEXIT. You guys are going to need more and more of that. And that's something that we launched, and we've had a year of testing and users for, and have really gotten it refined. The tokenization side is going to be important. We still have a lot to figure out how the economies can kind of get interconnected and how to complement each other's token economies.
Yeah, we have to fine tune that part. We have to fine tune exactly.
Yeah, that's hard.
Something we can accomplish.
No, yeah. We'll definitely get there, but it's a hard thing to do. I don't think
it is.
I don't think the crypto world really respects and appreciates the importance of redundancies.
John, once they realize what's happening here, excuse me for cutting it, but I have to tell this here. Once the crypto world realizes what Loci and LEXIT are really about, and how the demand is going to exponentially increase on the coin itself, I just say hashtag bigger than Bitcoin for us, my friend.
I think hashtag bigger than fiat.
That's yeah.
There's a lot to it, right? I would say there's also some potential for government partnerships or reserve currencies. There's much larger stuff than meets the eye for just about everything that we're doing. But it's very, very in the weeds and esoteric how we do all of this. And none of it's really sexy, right? So it's not something that we can go and talk about all the time, which is Your white shirt
unless
is sexy. Our tech is only sexy to mathematicians, and you see.
Come on, man! You can go to Stanford and Harvard and start dating over there. You know, there's also women at MIT. You know, it's fine.
They have the best parties of any college, I think, in the U.S. MIT and Harvard. Those
really?
Oh yeah.
I never been there. Never been there. Wow.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but maybe we can go to one of the last questions. So you were mentioning that you are building this partnership. So is there a timeline to it? Do you have any milestones coming up?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to work out. I would say it's pretty reasonable to do Q4 for an integration of the search, some of the interface. And really mapping out and planning out how protocols, the exchanges, that sort of stuff is gonna work. There is a lot to plan around the token economics, right? We want to make sure that assessors can go back and forth and
exactly
that way.
Exactly.
You know, and
one idea could be that we are pegging onto a third value, you know, to stabilize stuff, but we can get into details later.
Yeah, I think Q4 for some integration of the interfaces and really focusing on strategic partnerships, alliances, and mapping things out properly. Guys, what we're building is a replacement for equities, fiats, commodities, and just about every other economic system. We don't want to rush into this. We want to get it right. We want to build it right,
exactly,
and
exactly.
do it big the first time.
Good, very good sign.
This is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Very good. So before the closing statements, I think we have a question from someone that is actually in the webinar. So let me just beam him in.
All right.
Hello. So I think.
Who is it?
There you are. Hi.
What up, players and pimps? It's Ashton.
Hey, players and pimps.
How are you guys doing?
Good. Is that an Orioles shirt?
Pretty good.
No, it's Bitcoin, not bombs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just saw the orange, and I saw like what looked like a feather at the top.
Oh, that's another Bitcoin.
Where's you based?
Right now I'm in Colorado.
Gotcha. Nice.
Subarus and whatnot, you know.
Yeah,
hey, John, so I'm a little late to the party, but I had a question. And I don't know if it was asked, but regarding Inven, I was curious on your direct relationship with it and how it can impact the M&A space.
My direct relationship with it?
Yes.
I mean, I invented it.
Okay.
It's now called Loci Search. We had a lot of people that it was just better to have a branding platform. It just led to a lot of confusion. But yeah, so what do you my direct involvement with it? What are you asking?
Maybe you can explain.
All right, yeah, I just wanted to know, like, I had no idea you were an inventor. I just read an article before this little webinar, and then I was just curious about it. But how do you see it affecting the M&A space?
Well, for one, it's a completely different type of interface search engine, right? So the first thing that you got to think of when you do a Google search, you end up getting this list of results, and you get a lot of text and a lot of fonts that comes down. That's great for finding a good restaurant, a good bar, something along those lines where you know exactly what you're looking for. Right. When you're trying to get an understanding of where things fit and get down to, relevancy, just imagine picking up a bowl of sand and trying to find the specific grains of sand that you want. The Venn diagram interface allows you to do 4 searches at once and immediately get some relevance. So in an M&A space with real volume and velocity that we're going to be having here longer term, something like that, there's potentially going to be millions, if not billions, of assets that are available. And people need to be able to get down to that very quickly, just like searching the web. The Venn diagram interface, what used to be called Inven, now called Loci Search, is going to help with that, gaining immediate relevancy. There's also another layer which is called compound searching. It's something that we don't really publicize, but is in there, which is just going back to the Google reference. If you went on Google, what compound searching is selecting certain results that you've deemed relevant and then adding those back in as filters or sort bys, things along those lines that allow you to further refine and broaden your search at the same time. So it gets you down to the meat and potatoes, the what you really are looking for, what you really want to look at very, very, very quickly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good to know. That was the only question I had.
Go out and use it, man. You can sign up for free.
Word.
All right. Thank you very much, Ashton, for joining and for asking a question. I think that now we can move on to your closing statements before because it's already time. So maybe Amir, you'd like to start?
Encore.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for joining this. I think very, very interesting webinar we had. And I think it's pretty obvious that John, as me, and all people are very excited about the things we do. We are truly passionate about what we do because we believe in what we do. We're not in for a handout here. We're in for the long haul and to build something of value for us and for everybody else. So thank you everybody for participating and joining websites, Loci.io, I think, and LEXIT.co, and support our projects because you will not regret it, folks.
Thank you very much, Amir. Maybe John, you'd like to also give a closing statement?
Yeah, I don't know what to talk about. I talked so much during during the thing. Long-winded. I don't know. What do you think I should bring up, or what do you want to bring up?
Well, time is of the essence. So I think just thanking our partners for, helping us to facilitate the video, and looking forward to future AMAs, because I think there's a lot more down the road that we'll need to get into.
Yeah.
And it was great. Thank you guys. Thanks to our communities.
One thing that I will bring up is that both with Lexit and Loci on the raise side, and I want to be very clear, this is not a solicitation, but on the raise side, we both raised what was needed. We both raised and are raising pretty much the bare minimum. The more that our communities can do to get it out there, shares, retweets, follow us, ask the tough questions, right? Put us under inspection. We're able to handle that. Unlike a lot of other companies, we've gone through this. We're real businesses. We're able to handle that grilling. Go ahead and push us, and if we pass the test, then spread it far and wide, because what we're trying to do, there are a lot of people that would love to see us not succeed. And what we really want is to empower individuals all around the world. So let's fight the good fight. And everybody that is passionate about what we're doing and excited about having this really vast ecosystem and expanding innovation and taking some of the fight away from enterprises and giving some of that value back to individuals, if not all the value back to individuals. Help us get the word out there. Help us spread this. Help us share it, everything else.
Thank you very much, John. And maybe Nikita, you have some closing words as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I'd like to thank all participants for this great discussion. I think it's been really productive and informative. And thank you everyone for watching this webinar. I think honestly that there is so much potential, so many opportunities for our cooperation that one webinar is basically like nothing. The time went so fast, and I think that we have so many things to discuss still. So we look forward to working closely with the Loci team. And yeah, we look forward to give more information and more content to our community, to our communities as we move on with this. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Well, maybe we'll have to host a conference together or something along those lines where we just go into conversation.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. We talk about that.
All right, so
Well, there's
everyone
more.
watching, stay tuned for the conference, Loci and LEXIT conference, The Future of IP. Thank you so much for joining us today, and follow us on social media. Bye, guys.